So we got a new movie out called Skincare, and this stars Elizabeth Banks as an esthetician, Hope Goldman. And she is like an esthetician to the stars in Hollywood, and she has her business. And right across the way, some opposing
some
force.
Competition.
Yeah, some competition moves in across the way.
Yes.
And then there seems to be a plot to destroy her. So she enlists the help of someone to help her get to the bottom of this scheme to try to get her life back, because it's derailing everything. So supposedly this is based on some true story. I tried to look into the real story before we started recording, but ran out of time, so I don't really know how closely this resembles the truth. With movies, typically not much at all, I'm sure. But, so, as far as my thoughts on this film, we cover horror and we cover thrillers. This is, like, barely, like, on the line. This is like,
yeah.
I don't know exactly.
Very, like, thriller light.
Thriller light, for sure. Overall, I was kind of whatever on this one, mostly because I had a hard time kind of like discerning who I'm rooting for and exactly what's all happening. Like, the reveals of things don't feel very impactful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to be rooting for her or not, because she also kind of paints herself like the villain, which, in a way I kind of like, because people are not black and white, right? There's good things and bad things about everybody to varying degrees. And so not making her squeaky clean made it feel a little bit more realistic. But this is a movie about like paranoia first and foremost, I guess. But her character and her interactions with people and kind of like the events that culminate through her paranoia, I don't know. I found myself kind of disconnected from what may ultimately be the, like, what they're trying to sell me on. I don't know. What do you think?
I probably felt pretty similar to you, like, kind of just middle, like, whatever about the film. I don't think it was very thrilling. This always is interesting territory when we review movies that are based on true events, because it's like, obviously there's, like, it's adapted for film to be entertaining to some degree, but, like, whether or not they have the liberty to change things to make them more entertaining is probably between them and the people that actually experienced it and, like, sell the rights to the story.
Oh, I doubt that.
Or maybe not. I don't know. I could say that, yeah, I was just kind of underwhelmed with everything. It feels very obvious, like, the setups for everything. It's just like, oh, yeah, of course that person is doing this.
Yeah, we guessed who was doing it immediately.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just didn't find it super thrilling. I think that maybe the most interesting part of the movie is just kind of getting that peek into the superficial world of, like, aesthetics in Hollywood in general. But there's not a lot of that in this, which is something that I maybe would have liked to see more of. Just the, like, drama and more infighting and more of that type of thing. But as you said, I think the movie is more about, like, it's one woman's paranoia, really. And, somebody experienced that, so it's like, that's kind of freaky in and of itself. But yeah, I think that she is painted definitely as a pretty morally gray person.
Yeah.
To say the least.
The film just doesn't have a lot of payoff to anything that it sets up for me. Like, it goes, like, if you're looking at the scenes and how they're presenting themselves, they're acting like everything is extremely intense.
Yeah.
But I never felt that way.
Yeah.
I never felt connected in a way where I was like, oh, I was actually tense and like, oh shit, how's this going to end? And what's going to happen in this scene? And it just kind of like unfolded and I just watched.
Yeah.
There was no tension for me. There was no, you know, I wasn't fully in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, not very thrilling. But the movie tries to be, right? So, like,
it does.
It is a thriller. It's just not thrilling, right? Like, it really does attempt that the whole time. It keeps trying to, like, present this kind of chaotic nature of, like, she is paranoid and around every corner this person might be coming after her. But I think because you're very, like, privy to what's going on almost the entire time, and the film almost doesn't even try to reveal it in a way that it's, like, surprising, because they're almost, like, aware that you'd be aware.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way it felt when it was presented, or, like, when it was revealed, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
I agree, it's not that big of a revelation, but shouldn't it be? Wouldn't that be the, like, gut punch of, like, oh, shit?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
totally. I think it should have been withheld longer than it was.
I'm not going to say exactly what it is, spoiler-wise, for a different movie, but in the movie Gone Girl...
Oh, sure.
When you get to that part, when something is revealed... And it's like, it's around the halfway point. So it's not like a Sixth Sense last second twist. It's a mid-film twist, which I actually prefer, because then we have more time to kind of stew in that. Like, where you're like, oh, and like really, you know.
That's a good point.
Go with it. And with this, it does happen somewhere around the midpoint. But it's just the way it's revealed. Am I supposed to be like, oh, shit.
Right.
I should be. That's how I was in Gone Girl, where you're like, oh.
It changes everything.
This is flipping things.
Yeah, it really that doesn't happen here. This, as we said, it's a very predictable, like, you just kind of know what's, at least I think it's predictable. 100%. I think most people will be able to predict what's happening. There's also an element in the movie, like something that happens that I don't think we get an explanation for, like, what it was. That's, like, disconnected from all the other stuff, but you think it's a part of it, kind of, or she thinks it's a part of it. Yeah, I don't think that ever gets explained, which is, I mean, like, I don't know.
Oh, you're right.
It's kind of confusing. I think I know what it is. Like, I think it is legitimately not connected to anything, but I feel like that should have been
it's definitely connected to something. You're right. I don't think it's addressed. There's a guy that's, like, following her around. He's on his computer in, like, a cafe. And then he's, like, out on the street, and he ends up somewhere else. Is that ever resolved? Is that ever mentioned again?
I don't think so.
But it should be, because of where he is the last time we see him.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I don't know if we ever do get an explanation for that, and how it's connected to any of this. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when you're not vibing with a movie, when you're not, like, into the thrilling aspects of a thriller, you start to disconnect, and you start to just kind of, like, go through the motions, and then dialogue starts to become, like, you know, Charlie Brown's parents, where they're like,
yeah. Well, and thrillers are also...
I was trying to pay attention the best I could. I don't think that was addressed. Wow, that's terrible.
Also, with thrillers, it's really easy when you're not connected to them to then start, like, trying to break apart the logic of things. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think the acting from everybody was fine. There's not really any issue. Yeah, there's not any issue with, like, the performances or anything. I think that if you're, like, a big fan of, like, true crime type of stuff, like, this would be something you'd want to check out. But as far as, like, just our regular people that are, like, wanting a thrilling thriller, I think you could probably skip this and not miss out on much.
Yeah, but if for some reason you are adamant on watching it, it is available for rent right now on VOD. It's quite expensive. It was $10 to rent or $20 to buy. It's worth neither of those. It was in theaters like a week or two ago, and we were going to go. I'm glad we didn't.
Me too.
And that's that. So, all right, let us know. We'll see you in the comments.
Bye.
Adios.